Greetings, everyone. We will start as soon as we have people here on. So I'll suggest we start coming in. As soon as we have people logging in or tuning in, we can start as soon as people are in. And if you are tuning in, you can start by telling us where you're tuning in from, your name, where you're tuning in from. And as soon as we reach about 10, 20 people, we can start with this live. For those who don't know, this is all about the 1996 flood survival. Flood in 1996 flood survivals. Yeah, as soon as we reach about 10 to 20 people, we will start with this. Yeah, you can like and share, like and share, and like and share. As soon as we reach about 10, 20 people, we can start with it as soon as possible. For those already logging in, good evening from a wet Utnik. For those who do not know me, my name is Elton, surname Jafta. Yeah, as soon as we reach about 10 to 20 people, we can start with this. So, good evening once again. I'm Mr. Zelton Jafta. I am currently in Utenik, in a very wet Utenik. I'm actually from Patensi, for those who do not know. I'd like to take all of us here tonight through the 1996 floods in the Gemtus. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start by saying I welcome each and everyone who's here. I'd like to thank our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for being here. That is a great privilege for me. I thank each and everyone for this. Guys, without any further ado, let's start with this. I do know all of you. You have your own things to do, but thanks a lot for tuning in. Guys, I want to take all of us through to what happened in 1996 on the morning of the accident we had. During the morning of the accident, guys, I was about 13 years of age back then. First and foremost, my post says about 2 decades ago. I want just to correct it. It's not 2 decades, about 3 decades ago. So this accident happened in 1996. I was in standard 6 back then, Hanki Senior Secondary School. On the morning of the accident, we all drove through the Canberra port that was called back then. I'm not quite sure what they call it now. On our way to Hanki Secondary, where we catch up past the Star. Guys, it was for me, it was very interesting in the morning because it was my last day of exams. It was in November. I'm not quite sure about the exact date, but it was November 1996. When we arrived at school, I want us to go through this. When we arrived at school, uh, we started the exam starts. It was raining, like it is raining today. The exam starts just before we were about to finish our exams, but not all of us were done yet. You know what? we receive a message from the principal. He says, all those who stays in Cumbria, the upper areas, they must go home. We all pack our bags. We get ready to leave. You know what happened? When we get out of the school, they fetch us with a truck from I think it was nature reserve back then. Yeah, it was called Natir Bewaring back then. But anyway, guys, uh, we traveled. We made it to Potensi. We stopped in Potensi because there was problems with the truck. They gave us another buck. I think it was a Land Rover. For those who are listening in, for those who are tuning in, especially the survivors, they will know. They put us on a bakkie. We traveled with a bakkie. We stopped in the Muskral. In the Muskral, we got another bakkie from one of the farmers. The owner of the farm, I think it was Theo. I'm not quite sure about the surname. But anyway, we stopped with diesel. We got into that bakkie of Theo. We managed to get to the bridge in Cumbria. When we got to Cumbria, the bridge, guys, it was something else. I will never forget that day. I was the very first one on top of the truck. But before that, the truck driver was on the other side of the road. We were standing on this side. We were dropped off by this farmer. I think his name was Steele. Some of the survivors will correct me if I'm wrong. But with me was my father. Was my late father was an employee. It was my sister and myself. The three of us were in that accident, that flood accident, one house. The rest were my friends, some were family, but all of us we were very close because Cameras was a small, what is it called, a small farm. Everyone knows everyone. We were school kids with a few workers, and my dad was part of it. Guys, when the truck came, I was the first one on the truck. Now I want to tell you the detail of my clothing. I was wearing a school blazer, black school blazer. Underneath, I was wearing a bomber jacket. Not quite sure if the youngsters are familiar with the bomber jackets we used to wear back then. But I was wearing a black bomber jacket. I think it was a Nike, written Nike at the back. I was first on the truck, and everyone we were just on the truck, guys. Before we went over, I think who was the Boston manager back then? I just forgotten his name. But let me not mention names because we must be careful about these what is it called, the public and stuff. But anyway, the manager back then said to my uncle who was the driver, it was my mother's brother. He's also late. But anyway, he was asking how's the water. He said, "Sir, this water is very strong. The water is very strong." He said, "No, but the water is not strong." He said, "The water is very strong." But anyway, we're about to drive over. So on the other side of the river, on the other side of the bridge, there were a number of people. I think it was the whole country, if I'm not mistaken, who was standing on the other side of the bridge. They were looking at us, wanting to know what is going to happen now. You know what happened? I can't recall who was sitting in front, but what I do know is my uncle was driving. I just don't know his full name, but he was called Mariji, surname Swartz. He was driving. My father was also in front of the truck. I think there were three in front of the truck, but there were three workers. In the middle of the bridge, we went off the bridge. Now you must imagine all students underneath the water and workers. Guys, when I want you to remember now this, whenever the rain pours like it's pouring, It reminds me of the day back then, November 1996. I was a 13-year-old schoolboy. I was in standard 6 back then. We were underwater. You know what? When you're underwater, I was able to hear voices. I don't know who's where. You can't see nothing. How long we've been underwater, I do not know. Even today, I can't even remember how long I was underwater. But when I managed to get out underneath of the truck, when I look around, it was everywhere. We were Students were everywhere. Fortunately for me and another friend of mine, let me rather not mention his name. We were very close. We grew up together, very close. You know what? We were in a stream. There was a very strong stream, and there was a tree. We managed to swim to that tree, and he was about, I think, 10 or 20 meters before me, and I was screaming to him, and I said to him, "Yeah, man, you must help me! You must help me! You must help me!" So when I pass him, you must try to grab me. And fortunately for me, I could swim. I could swim. So what I do now is anyone who was from Cambria or from the farm were able to swim. We swim. I managed to get into that tree. Guys, as I'm sitting here, I can still feel my heart beating very fast because that was a day I would never forget. I was about 13 years old. Today I'm sitting at the age of 43 years. And to tell you today, it's the very first time I openly speak about what happened back then 30 years ago. That's not all, it doesn't stop there. You know, when we were sitting in that tree, myself and this friend of mine, I saw my father climb out under the truck. How long he been in the truck, I do not know. But when I checked, the truck was on his backside. The wheels were in the air, and he was sitting on top of it. And I started to cry, and I called him, and I asked him. My exact words to him was, "Papa, come help me. Papa, come help me." My third eldest brother was on the wall. Tommy, my late brother, is also late today, and he said to me, "Don't do anything. You sit in that tree." The Bosbo manager back then, I just remember his name, but I'm not going to mention his name. He called us. He said, "Look, guys, come closer to me." Remember, this guy was tall. He was very tall. He was about 2 point something meters in height, and he was taking off his belt, his waist belt, and he was saying to me, "Come into the water, jump into the water, and then catch the belt." My brother said, "Hey, you're not listening to that guy. You are not listening to that guy. Listen what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, you are sitting in that tree. We're gonna help you." Guys, that was something I will never forget. You know what? After some time, we managed to see a number of things happen. I saw my uncle drowning. We were sitting in the tree, and I could see a few meters from me. There's my uncle going. There's another guy going. Another uncle of ours. Both of them went. Uh, Before I continue, I'd like to apologize for the families. Maybe some of them who are watching who see this as something very sensitive. Some of them who feel like I should have done this, but I had to do this. Whenever the rain pours, I spoke to my brother the other day and I said to him, "Man, whenever it's raining like this, it reminds me of what happened about 30 years ago." And I do believe my brother is on here. For those who don't know him, but for those who do know him, for those who do know us, I spoke to him and I said to him, at some point, the story needs to be told. But as I was saying, I'd like to apologize to those families if they feel like I should have spoken to them first. I humbly apologize, but I have to tell my side of the story. But guys, after some time, I could hear there's a noise coming, and I was under the impression uh, it's a helicopter that is coming. To my surprise, it was a rubber ducky. We call that thing a rubber ducky in my language, or should I say a rubber booty? And there was the gentleman who came to help us, actually to rescue us. I think that gentleman drove from Andriskral. I'm not quite sure how many kilometers was the river, but it's a number of kilometers. He drove from Andriskral. I think he was working on a farm. Uh, what is that? I can't remember the name of the farm, but I know the farm he was working for or he was working with. I think it was Heston Ferreira or something. I just forgotten the name of the gentleman who was riding that rubber ducky. But at some point, I will remember. I will as time continues, as I continue, I will remember the name of the gentleman who saved us that day. You know what? That guy came. He started with us. When he came and people were shouting from the devils and from the riverbanks and saying, "Where's the guys? Go to them first." And that guy came to us. It took me. You know what? I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for the rubber ducky to come to me. You know, when it approached us, I saw him jump. I was in the rubber ducky. It was me and my friend first. As we approached the riverbank, I jumped off. My brother was there, Tommy. We call him Nopo. His nickname is Nopo. We call him Tommy. His name is Tommy. And he said to me, "I'll go home now." I said, "No, wait. Papa is there, Michelle is there. We still have to wait." Guys, my sister was my sister was saved, my brother. Those who could have been saved was saved. Unfortunately for the ones who didn't make it, we are still praying for their families. But I'm not going to mention their names due to the sensitivity of this. But anyway, guys, we we went home after that accident. We went home. It was myself, my dad, and my sister Michelle. When we got home, we had a landline at home. The phone was ringing non-stop. People wanted to know what the hell is it? What happened? People were phoning. My father ended up saying, "Unplug the phone." The first night we couldn't sleep. I think it was during the week. It was not on a Friday. I think it was during the week. But 30 years ago, I can't remember the exact times and dates, but it's a long time ago, 3 decades. Uh, First night we couldn't sleep. You know what? We tried to sleep, but there's no way you could go to a doctor to get sedated or what is it called? Not sedated, get something just to make you sleep. The next morning, we went back to the bridge to go and have a look at what happened. And the truck was moved from the bridge to a corner. I think it was about between 80 and 100 meters from the bridge where it was originally. And we were told a few minutes after we were out of the water, another dam, a dam wall broke. That's why the truck was moved. And guys, I think it was November, man. It was close to December. We didn't have a nice December because we had to bury our families and our friends. When I was doing some research, I found out that according to the newspapers, there were no fatalities, which is not true. There were survivors and there were fatalities. 2 students died and 2 workers died because my uncle was one of those who died. And it was very painful. We had a very painful December that year, 1996. When I look at it now, the only thing I can say is God, the goodness and the grace of God that kept us through the whole ordeal. I must admit, If it was not the grace of God, it could have been worse. It could have been worse. So guys, what I'm trying to say is whenever we have this kind of rains, it has to remind us of what happened 30 years ago. Let us not forget about the loved ones we lost, the life we lost on that bridge. And I would suggest that we, as the survivors of that accident of 1996, we should stand up and go to the authorities and get that bridge renamed. We should come up with a name. I got a suggestion which I'm going to put here, and then we take it from there. We should call it, no, let me rather not leave the name here, because I got a name for it. So we as a family went through a very difficult time, 1996. I remember after my father decided to put the phone back in, there were a number of calls. I remember, I think it was the local newspaper called, I think it was the Burger back then. They wanted to have an interview. I think they asked me a couple of questions, but as a, I don't know, I was not a toddler back then, but as a very, very youngster, I didn't even know what I was saying, but I did give a few answers to their questions. Because I remember they wanted to know how long I was underwater and that kind of stuff, what happened. I remember having, I had, what is it called, a clip, a newspaper clip of that event. But I can't recall what else was said in that thing. So guys, let's not forget the floods of 1996. My poster said the 2 decades. I just want to make a correction. It's not 2 decades. It was 3 decades ago. 1996 is 30 years. I was 13 years back then, and I'm sitting at steady 43 years and not out. So guys, I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to each and everyone who tuned in, and everyone who sent a message, everyone sent a like, or whatsoever. To my family, ek wil vir julle almal sê baie dankie. Ja, die tyd wat ons gegaan het, daai tyd, tot nog vandag toe, vir die wat onthou, selfs vir diegene wat nie weet nie, vandag weet jy wat het gebeur in 1996, toe dit so moeilik gegaan het. 1996 was 'n ander jaar in die tyd wat ek opgegroei het. Daai tyd was ek 13 jaar oud. Ek was 13 jaar oud in standaard 6 Hankie sekondêre skool was ek destyds. En dit was 'n baie moeilike tyd vir ons as 'n familie. Maar ons het daar deurgekom deur die genade van God. En glo my vry, as dit nie vir die Here was nie, was dit soveel anders. Die lof, die eer, die prys, die aanbidding kom net God toe. Ons kan vandag maak en doen en sê net wat ons wil. Die genade van die Here is nog daar. As hy 30 jaar daar was, wil ek selfs elk vanaand bemoedig deur te sê, 30 jaar terug was hy vir my daar, en hy sal vir elkeen van ons, sal hy daar wees. Die woord van die Here sê ook vir ons, dat roep my aan die tyd van die benoudheid. Jy moet my eer, ek sal jou uitdip en jy moet my eer. So, ja, geliefdes familie, elkeen van julle moet geseënde aand hê. Ja, en ek wil ook by dit noem, dat die 1996 vloed, wat ek nou van gepraat het, sal een of ander tyd in 'n boek omskep word. Ek is besig daarmee. So voor die launch of wat ook al gebeur, ek sal julle op hoogte hou. So hierdie live wat julle vanaand hier so gekyk het, julle sal dit sien, julle sal daai boek sien. Hy is 'n boek in the making. So once again, thanks each and everyone. Elvira, Rademeyer, Brian Fortuin, almal wat ingelok het, Felicity Smith, almal wat gegroet het, wat hier so is, Jonathan, my broer Basil, elkeen wat ingelok het, almal is gegroet, ja, ek waardeer, Barbara, ja, want almal, julle is hier so. Elkeen is gegroet, ja, Jonicia, Shakira, Ja, dit is. So dit is my kant van die storie van 1996. Ek weet ook dat baie van ons het vanaand iets gehad om te doen. Ek wil vir elkeen sê wat ingeskakel het, baie dankie man, ek waardeer jou. As ek jou naam genoem het, jy's gewaardeer. Jy's gewaardeer en maar die Here seën. Geseën aan vir elkeen. Mooi bly.